Hello, welcome to MJR RPG. The following is an overview of a couple of my scenarios. Since January, I've been releasing one short, single-hour scenario per month under the series title Call of Cthulhu. I've collected the first 4 of them into a Season 1 bundle, and as I have only done a write-up of the first Flash scenario, Omore, a while ago, I'll do a little overview of each here. As they are super short, I'll start by giving just the logline and general theme for each, then dive into a more detailed overview after giving a spoiler warning to all the players that might be listening. The Call of Cthulhu scenarios have so far all been 6 to 8 pages long, come with 4 pre-gen investigators, and are written to fit into a 1-hour session. They also come with suggestions on how to extend the session, how to work in pre-existing or custom investigators, how to adjust difficulty for Pulp Cthulhu, how to continue with follow-up sessions, and how to swap out eras or settings. To fit the 1-hour time frame, they are mostly single location and usually have some sort of ticking clock element. As such, many of them are meant to be stressful in some sense for the players, pushing them hard towards a rapidly approaching ending they may not be prepared for. The first scenario is Café Omore. Boston, 1928. Some old friends are out for coffee when the tinkle of the bell announces an unexpected patron's entrance. Café Omore is set in a single room and focuses on stressing the players out while testing their negotiation and social problem-solving skills, or potentially just bursting out into a short scene of intense violence. Scenario 2, Fair Porcine Prize. Lidford, southwest England, 954 AD. The Harvest Fair competition brings folk from all the neighboring villagers to show off and sell their prize vegetables, fruits, and livestock. Infrith, a good-natured but rather pitiable peasant, brought his favorite sow, Pigwin, to compete for the biggest porcine prize. But only half an hour before the judgment is about to commence, Infrith causes a scene, crying out that his beloved Pigwin is missing, stolen, a black tragedy. Fair Porcine Prize is a Cthulhu Dark Ages scenario that flows like a regular investigative scenario, letting players use their investigators' various skills to poke around and question people, but stuffed into a very small package. And it focuses on a pig. Scenario 3, Be Good Neighbors. Arkham Outskirts, 1933. The Matthews, a Depression-era family in hard times, finds an old farmhouse outside of Arkham for a shockingly low price, and given the economic downturn, they take the chance. Be Good Neighbors has a combination of investigation, fretting over a moral dilemma, paranoia, and a good bit of nasty violence. The players' investigators are also all family members, which can give some fun role-playing if they lean into it. Scenario 4, Sell Yourself. New York City, July 2008. The Great Recession is in full swing and jobs and homes are slipping through swaths of the nation's fingers. The investigators, or in this case interviewees, are desperate for work. Luckily, they ran across recruitment ads for positions at Surya and Tara Associates. They now converge on the company's offices for a group interview. Sell Yourself takes place almost entirely during a group interview, and as such is focused on competitive dialogue as the players have their interviewees try to land the job. Again, you can find the Call of Cthulhu Season 1 bundle on DriveThruRPG. The following section is full of spoilers, so if you're a player or just don't want to know what's going on, I would suggest stopping here. Scenario 1, Café Omore. Café Omore is meant to put immediate stress on your players and force them to make use of their investigators' interpersonal skills. There is, of course, an option for violence, and if they do resort to bloodshed, it should be quick and brutal, but there are many options for them to avoid direct combat. As the title implies, the scenario is set in a little cafe, and the problem to solve is a clearly unhinged gunman entering the shop and searching for some people he means to shoot. The twist on the problem is that there is another group of patrons in the cafe that look the exact same as the investigators. A classic "don't shoot the real me" scene, with the investigators as the ones being copied, and the guy with the gun not knowing who either group really are. Those other patrons are, of course, cultists in magical disguise, though the investigators won't know that at first. And so the main thrust of the scenario will be the investigators trying to convince the gunmen not to shoot them, or to shoot their doubles, or potentially even working with their doubles to subdue the gunmen. The most difficult part of the scenario when running is dealing with 2 parties of NPCs. Going along with the general rule of thumb for running NPCs, the keeper should avoid having the cultists and the gunmen conversing with each other instead of with the player characters. Try to have the NPCs be largely reactive to the players once the initial situation is established. So if the players fall silent, the NPC should first directly address them. If the keeper still requires the NPCs to interact with each other, they can still have everything they say prompt the players to act, even if the cultists address the gunman or the gunman addresses the cultists. While the scenario can be solved, quotation marks around solved, by the players through arguments or violence, the best, again quotation marks around best, solution is through empathy. First calming down the gunman, then talking with him to gain a semblance of trust, then learning his backstory, which gives the players the full picture of what is happening, as well as the most mechanical bonuses to convince the gunman to trust them over their doubles. Or, as one of my playtests went, the investigators could trust the doubles over the gunman, subdue him, then shoot him after a cultist uses a dominate spell on the investigator with the gun. Scenario 2. Fair Porcine Prize. Fair Porcine Prize is a bit of a silly investigation around a medieval fair. The main NPC is meant to be goofy, and the pre-gen investigators also lend themselves to more flamboyant play. Things, of course, get weirder as they go on, ending with an underground burrowing pig turning into a gate to Shub Niggurath, and swallowing all the livestock at the fair, some of the fairgoers, and maybe a couple of investigators. There are a few clues to find looking around the fair using your standard eyeballs and ears, but the highlight is questioning the missing pig's doddering owner, Infrith, and having him relay a fairy tale he was told by a wandering traveler. As Infrith, like most medieval folk, is illiterate, this story takes the place of a regular handout or a mythos tome. If at all possible, investigators should be prodded to question Infrith so that he can give this clue. Or at worst, he can just blurt it out. Role-playing Infrith is the key to the scenario, as if he's boring, the players won't care about finding his pig. I've had success making him as doddering but kind-hearted as possible. If you enjoy doing voices at the table, this is a time to bring out that old man voice, complete with meandering stories, random pauses that stretch far too long, and forgetting what you're talking about. The finale has the missing pig turn into a gate to Shub Niggurath beneath the center of the fair, creating a sinkhole and sucking down anything unfortunate enough to be above it. The only way to stop it is to throw an apple, or a bucket of apples, down its gullet. The story Infrith tells hints at this, as well as later on some fruit and vegetables disappear, with the exception of apples. Of my 3 playtests, 2 groups were saved by the apples, one group intentionally chucking a sack of apples into the pig gate, while an investigator in the second group was extremely lucky, having stolen an apple earlier and then completely forgetting about it, only to be swallowed by the gate with the apple still in their pocket. Scenario 3. Be Good Neighbors. This scenario is the first to really benefit from being given more time, but I still prefer keeping it as close to 1 hour as possible. The extra time would give the players more opportunity to investigate, roleplay amongst themselves, and fret over what choice to make before the finale, while also giving the keeper more time to ease into the weirdness. The scenario has the family of investigators moving into a new house, then meet their neighbors, who soon leave but promise to come back for dinner. After a bit of poking around the house, they hear voices in the pipes, and eventually find something in their well. It tells them the neighbors are murderers and asks the investigators to let it out of the well. Cue dilemma. The neighbors will eventually return for dinner, either to brutally murder the investigators or to be horrifically eaten alive by the ghouls. Spoiler, it was ghouls in the well. The key point of the scenario is to, of course, make the dilemma actually a dilemma. If the neighbors are too obviously suspicious or way too kind, the players will smell that something is off and won't think twice about letting the well creatures out to eat them. I found the best way to make the neighbors seem less suspicious was to have them acknowledge something is weird about the house and seem nervous about it, and promise to tell the investigators more at dinner. This makes it seem like they might be afraid of something, and so could be allies of the investigators against a different threat. Or, if you're a bastard of a keeper, you could have the neighbors be completely innocent if it seems the investigators are completely convinced they're evil. Then they have to deal with the reveal the neighbors didn't plan anything nefarious before watching them be savagely devoured, and then maybe have to deal with the ghouls themselves. Scenario 4. Sell yourself. Sell yourself is the weirdest of the 4, and for some the most uncomfortable. Job interviews suck, group interviews suck more, and having the interviewers ask bizarrely uncomfortable questions also doesn't help and sucks even a little bit more. The investigators start off the interview with things more or less normal, but as the interview progresses, the questions get stranger and more uncomfortable, while the investigators are buffeted by assaults on their senses that trigger painful memories. By the end, they should all be in various degrees of panic or insanity, and the players likely disoriented. Only one investigator is chosen by the 2 mysterious interviewers, at which point the remaining investigators find themselves back in that painful memory, their dying moment. The winner is also taken back to a near-death experience, somehow just barely escaping at this time though, but at a great cost, likely losing a loved one in their place. Faustian deal accepted. The scenario is easy to, and should be, customize on the fly to the player's actions and reactions. Everything essentially plays out through how the investigators answer questions. They have no real ability to physically confront or change anything, as they are in some sort of purgatory-like state. While the scenario has lists of questions to ask in succession, and there are probably more questions there than can be comfortably fit into an hour-long session anyways, the keeper should alter the questions, or make up new questions, as they feel fit to make the investigators turn on one another. The scenario works best when everyone's at each other's throats. Investigator-wise, not players. Once again, if this sounds interesting, you can find the Flash Cthulhu Season 1 bundle on DriveThruRPG. As always, thank you to Cryochamber for use of their album Cthulhu. Until next time, have a good one.